Welcome everyone to the stream. Welcome to another Humpday Q&A. How's everyone doing? Are you saying something, Randall? Am I muted? What's going on here? Is this my end? Okay, hang on a minute.
Right here. It was right
there.
There
We go. Okay, good.
It was right here. I mute it during the opening just in case some signal leaks through while I'm busy coughing and sneezing before the show starts. So, yeah, hi. Now it's much better when I can actually speak to y'all. That's kind of nice. All right.
So, yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome to another Humpday Q&A.
I'm going to miss that music in a few weeks because we won't have it anymore.
We actually do a cool announcement about that too. So we'll do that.
Yeah. Oh, even wonderful. All right. Well, we'll save that for in the show.
We'll save
get
that
the
for a minute.
started.
But let's get the show started. I guess. Oops. Yeah. So my name is.
Whoa! Back it up, man. Back it up.
No. We're going to do it this way around. Right. So.
Oh, you're going to do it this way. All right.
Yeah. My name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter Community Leader, CTO at Dev Angels London, and you can follow me at Dev Angels London. Randall.
I am Randall Schwartz. I am a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert. Been that for about 6-7 years, ever since the beginning of the program. What that means, I spend a lot of my time answering questions for y'all on various socials, and also I present at GDGs, and I'm also putting together YouTube channel stuff, so it's been pretty fun. But for this show, I am particularly the question magician, which means I am watching the YouTube live chat. And if you put Q: at the beginning of your post in there, I will flag that and we'll bring it up so that mostly Simon answers it. It usually turns out to be the case, or Simon goes off and Googles a bunch of stuff and answers it. So that's typically that way. But we all, well, yeah, we all take a swing at it though sometimes. So anyway, and that's me. That's enough.
And we have a Danielle.
Hey everybody, I'm Danielle Cox. I am one of the organizers of the Flutteristas, which is a group I'm passionate about. So if you happen to be female or non-binary and you haven't joined us yet, what's wrong with you? Anyway, hit us up and we can make sure that happens. I also lead a small team of Flutter engineers with a startup company called Ardley. And so that's me.
And we also have a John. John, welcome.
Yeah, hey, how's it going? So I'm John Weezy. I run the Flutter community Medium and answer questions in Discord and a few other places, along with Randall and others. And my day job is writing code at a small company named Microsoft. So,
yeah, little known company. No,
yeah,
I've heard of them.
Yeah,
I've heard of them.
A startup. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Randall,
it was a startup at one point.
I'll leave the do's and don'ts to you now.
Yes, I actually visited there when it was like 30 people. It was crazy back in the really early days. Anyway, hey, so we got a few rules, real simple. Be nice, respectful, be constructive. You are talking to actual human beings in the chat room, not just bots. Although I'm not sure about some people. Some people here might be bots. It's hard to tell. Don't post anything if it's adult or rude or offensive. We do have ban hammers and we do use them. Don't advertise or promote anything. The only people that can promote stuff are people who have their faces on the screen. So if you want to promote something, ask to be a guest. We're very happy to have guests on the show. Don't spam. Don't post the same thing again and again. It's just annoying. We can delete it, but it just gets in our way. So just don't do that over and over again. And one particular thing is if you post a question, and then you post the same question 20 minutes later because you think I haven't seen it, but I've seen everything. If you think I haven't seen it, I will just move you down. You lose your place in the queue. So you really don't want to do that. Harassment not tolerated at all. Again, we have ban hammers and we do use them, but do have a good time. We have a good time sharing our information with you. So we hope that you all having a good time as well. And if not, ask us what it can make it better because maybe we can help. Yes,
especially have a good time. That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
and also talking about which, if you want to share code and your question and share it with us, you need to go to gist.new. You can enter description or title. Make sure the file name ends in .dart so we get the code syntax highlighting, and then enter your code or paste it into the box provided. Change the gist to public, and then post your gist, and then in the URL at the very last bit at the bottom there, which is a little bit cut off there. Grab the hash, that's the long hexadecimal string from the URL, post it in the chat, and then we can go look it up and look up your code and comment. We're happy to do code reviews or answer questions with code, anything like that.
And just to motivate all that, the reason is that we're going through all this gyration is that you cannot post URLs to the chat. Y'all cannot post URLs to chat, only moderators can. So that's why we go through this gyration to turn it into a non-URL that we could still go fetch. So
to be clear, if you do post something with a link in it, we will not see it. The time message is not sent through. So not just the link is removed, the whole message is gone. So don't post anything with links in.
Yes, we have at least once every month or so, there's somebody that says, but I posted a question on blah, blah. And we go, did it have a URL in it? And we go, yeah. And then we find out that that's what they've done. They've not followed our instructions. Yes.
And we have a slight little surprise we'll start with here. We have FlutterCon USA this end of this month. So you have a last chance to get free tickets.
Woo.
And you're not dreaming. So we had some awesome partners. So we're going to give away 5 free passes to FlutterCon NYC, and 25 more lucky days will get 50% off for the ticket.
Oh.
So all you need to do is fill out a form, and there's a potential you got it. It's only obviously if you've already bought a ticket, not open to you. But if you haven't, then there's a possibility. So the link is in the chat. And I'll pin that in the chat as well for those people that want to, if I can. It says it'll pin it. Apparently, I can't. Great. Well, anyway, it's in the chat, and if you click on the link, fill out the form to potentially get a free ticket. Which why not, right?
Yeah,
So
I'm excited. This is going to be my first Flutter conference that isn't a Google sponsored or isn't a Google conference, which is interesting. So
this is an interesting one because this is it's a what do they call it?
The silent conference.
Silent conference, yeah. So you get headphones to listen to the speakers. So
what? Wow.
Yeah. Some interesting because it'll be like one big room and stuff. Like there'll be different partitions and stuff. But it's a nice interesting way of doing it. How well it goes. Yeah. First time we're going to attempt to do this, so we'll see how well it goes.
Yeah,
this will be new for me. Yeah.
Say again, Danielle?
I believe it made the place a lot cheaper, right? And that's the point. That's the place they get wide open, didn't have all the separate rooms.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. I'm
apprehensive. See how it goes.
Really cool.
I'm also kind of like, there's an interesting idea around this, right? Because there's always that kind of thing when you're maybe in a bad position at the back of the room, whenever you can't see or hear, or that all goes away with this. So kind of there's almost like the speaker is talking directly to the persons now, right? So the person that you're speaking to, like you can hear it directly. So that's kind of going to be an interesting difference in there.
Yeah, I mean, I know my energy changes based upon reactions from people in the crowd.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking and I see someone nodding, I know I'm kind of on the right track, and that makes a huge difference in my confidence and in my.
Well, you still get that, right? That won't change, right?
If they're sitting in front of me, if they're sitting in the back where they can't do whatever, then not.
Well, that's the same
thing. Nodding is good, but nodding off is bad. So that would be totally different. Yeah, you got the right kind of nodding. Yes.
I love this talk. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Down.
Right, exactly. You didn't speak so loud as to wake me up. Yes.
There's also another event actually happening sooner than that. That's a Flutter event.
Whoa.
I don't know how many of you know about this event. It was quite popular previously, and I've not heard about it at all recently, actually. But there is also hang on, let's see if it comes up on screen. There you go. Flutter Global Summit AI Edition.
Oh, yeah.
This is coming up. It's an online conference. Get rid of that. Go away. They've done. I've spoken at previous ones. They've done stuff each year. I'm not sure who's on the 6 panel discussions. And there you go. Look, some faces we all know.
Yeah.
People. Roman.
So yeah. So if you're interested in hearing from these people, then I'll pop this link in the chat.
Yeah.
And this will be in the chat as well. So
cool. I got to finish writing my talk too. I got the first half written. Better write the other half in the next 3 weeks. Right.
Today I just heard that we had a speaker drop out, so I'm now going to speak at the conference as well.
Oh, wow. Cool.
I've got some topics floating around that I'm just going to have to talk about.
You were listed as a speaker already, weren't you?
I was down as I was a moderator.
Coordinator.
Okay. I got it.
Moderator.
I was going to float around a bit more than have to worry about speaking, but now I'm going to do both sometimes.
Too late. It's done. It's
Can
a done deal.
Can you let us know who dropped out, or is that private, you think?
I don't know at the moment. Like let's yeah. There might be more, there might be less. Like the key is to follow the agenda that will be published on the website, and then that will keep you apprised as to who's doing what talk when.
I also had this, apparently, Glasgow.
I did not know about that.
Yep.
I would have gone to that.
I'm sure.
If I'd known about that. I was only
a lot of places.
One, it was Connect. I'm thinking of. So there was a Connect in end of the month in.
Yeah.
Annoyingly, at exactly the same time as FlutterCon USA.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's
only so many days in the year. Only so many days.
No.
And that basically happened with Berlin. Was it last year or the year before? Where it was like the week before. I think it was last year, and it was like the week before. And and so that was also kind of awkward for some people.
Yeah. I don't miss those days when I was going to 12 conferences a year and some of them would conflict. So it'd be
Yeah.
like, where do I go? That back
So-
in the .com boom, that's what I was doing,
Yep.
flying around all
Yep.
over the world.
All the
It
time.
was exciting. Yeah, it was exciting.
There you go.
68 countries. Yay.
So 500 Flutter devs, 60 talks, 3
Yeah.
stages, 2 days,
Great.
1 hackathon.
One room.
One very big room.
This
Yeah,
this I'm excited about as well. LGTM, the Flutter hackathon we're going to do as well. So
yeah.
Yeah,
was
Frey
that?
was reminding us of the all the soccer games going on in Berlin last year too, which also was the European Cup, I think it was. That that definitely added some intensity to the area and races to the rooms and stuff like that. Yeah, it was interesting. You could tell who won based on where the sound was coming from, in the groups and the colors of the jerseys when they were out, And the games would end like I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock at night. I mean, it was like it was pretty wild. In a good way.
Cool.
yeah. It was super expensive to stay that week because of the same time as the playoffs and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
No,
I
Go
don't know
ahead.
if I got to tell you last week. Last week I added the Android plushie up there.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I got that by winning there was a Google I/O chess tournament, and
Oh, wow.
I won the chess tournament. So
Nice.
tied for the win, but yeah.
I've been blaspheming recently and been learning this.
Oh.
Yeah. What do you think of it?
Dark.
I really like it. So the thing is, I come from a background of C++ anyway.
Mhm.
So coming from that side of it, it all makes sense. And I do like the way that you build things out. Traits is very very C++, right? And template driven sort of stuff. It's similar.
I was
I really like it's very powerful. And I think we spoke about this on the show before, but the notion of so something that you depend on what sort of thing you're programming, right? But there's a consistency that sometimes you need in time domain, right, from code. And you cannot get that with any language garbage collected, right? Like, because I mean, technically we've now kind of got that in Dart because you can turn off the garbage collector temporarily, right? And you can turn it back on by saying, like, we're doing something very important, don't garbage collect while I'm doing this, and then you can turn it back on again. But it's really just like a ripcord, right? Like it's not really practical in any sort of way because you still got to manage that. So your sort of your jitter in the time domain is going to vary based on what you're doing at that time, how much garbage collection it's got to do, when it does garbage. Like, it's just fully complete out of your control. Whereas with Rust, you've got that kind of it's all solved, all the traits and generics, everything else is solved at compile time, and so is all the allocation use. So therefore, that you've got a consistent runtime, if that makes sense. So there's a different approach, but so I'm going to add one more plushie to this, which is the Ferris, the crab from Rust. So I've got him on his way. So hopefully next week he'll be here.
I actually bought the Google bike, and I'd never bought anything from the Google store the last few years, at least at I/O. And I get there, and of course I could have bought it there for 10% off. So it's like, come on, I had my I/O credentials on when I bought it in the store, but yeah, it's kind of fun.
I bought a couple of things that there's a Google store on campus near the Android statues, I think.
It used to be there, yeah.
Oh, it used to be. It's not there anymore.
Yeah, no. Now they've got a whole new visitor center.
Oh, really?
And that's where the Google store is. Yeah.
Yeah, I bought a hoodie and a couple of other things.
Yeah. I bought a couple things from that too. But anyway.
We have a couple questions in the queue. We're looking for more questions. If you want to ask us, so-called experts.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm fine with us just jumping into some we can just talk about what we're doing and maybe come up with some cool stuff.
Or at least whack the 2 questions down and then move forward.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But like, if there's no questions coming in, then we'll just jump straight into it and kind of get going.
Okay, so we'll start with questions, and hopefully that'll inspire people to ask further questions and longer questions. So I want to add voice command, where a user will ask the command, and I get them to the proper screen. Is it possible?
Yes.
I'm okay if I have to use
Everything
Gemini
is
or
possible
the
with
AI.
stuff. Everything is
There's
possible with stuff.
there is on-device speech to text on all platforms now, so you probably won't need to use an external service, although you might not be happy with the results. But
To be honest, actually, on-device stuff is pretty damn good. Actually, like
really,
all things considered. Yeah. You choose your language, right? So if you've got installation of Android, for example, I'm talking about Android specifically. I'm not sure about iOS, but with Android, when you install it, you choose your language. It installs one for, let's say, a British accent versus, so it can understand the words and synonyms and things that you would use in the UK rather than America and such like that. So
sure,
it's pretty good actually. That you don't need that kind of like huge models and complex compute on your device to actually do that.
So I'm sure there's a Flutter speech to text native app package.
I actually built a text to speech engine once. That was fun.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's the same thing, right? What's it called? Phonetics. So you have phonemes, which are like the different parts, different what do you call them?
Phonemes.
Sounds, basic phonemes. Yeah. Phonemes, phonemes. Yeah. The different whatever. It's been a while. And you would. I had a whole catalog. I think it was like a whole catalog of those phonemes in different patterns, basically. And then I would like build them all up together, and I did some like a low pass filter to merge it all together. It's quite good. But I mean, it's exactly what you did. Like this, like having a computer speak. That was done in like the 80s, right?
Yep.
Somewhere better. Like it's got, don't get me wrong, it's getting more complicated, but it's also not like crazy.
Yeah, I remember our local Museum of Science and Industry had a box that had 40 buttons on it, and you could string together the phonemes and make it say things. And of course, the kids would make it say weird things and stuff. So it was kind of a dangerous box to have out there in the lobby of the Science Museum. Yes.
I always found it interesting when you had like phonetically words that said that like phonetically the same, but what's the word? That's spelt the same but phonetically different or whatever, right? Like there's some
like read and read and wind and wind. That's graphonyms, I think. Written same, graphonyms.
But
as opposed to homonyms.
So I think John just answered this by posting the package speech to text, but essentially what you do is you use the platform APIs to actually perform the actions, and then what you get back is your text, and then you can interpret that text however you need to, right? So you can see if it's a command structure, right? You pass that text, right?
Yeah, and if you want to share in the private chat, I threw a link to an article. Yeah, there's an article that uses that package as an example to take speech and turn it into text.
Yeah, that's good.
Brilliant.
Oh.
Guide and everything.
As always, if you can do it on device and it's performance there, that's much better than taking up the time and battery to send it out.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't realize, you either with voice stuff, you're sending that audio data over the wire, over the internet to be interpreted by a server and sent back. The problem with the whole speech to text thing, you need the clearest possible audio so that it can be processed the best on the server side, but that takes up the most bandwidth. So now you need to compress it on the device to lower the sample rate, which makes it harder for it to understand it on the server side. So there's a trade-off here, which is, you want it fast or you want it good, right? You can't have it both, right? So that's one of the reasons why, like, there's always speech to text stuff built into the keyboards as well, right? Like, and on device and stuff like that you can just take advantage of, right?
Yeah.
I think you can just trigger. I think that speech to text stuff just basically triggers that. So
I think we answered that one pretty well. Let's move on to the next one, because now there's 3. So, all the way to 3.
yeah.
And
Keep it
Android
coming.
edge to edge. If I have a list view and I'm using the padding parameter, it causes items inside the list view to go beyond the system navigation bar. Using safe area works, but is that the right approach?
Okay, so let's break this down a second here, right?
Sure.
So edge to edge, to be clear for other people that don't understand, is that when your app can go behind the status bar at the top and below the navigation bar at the bottom of the screen. This the system UI is called, right? And by default, the primary scroll view of a route will automatically get the padding of those, right? The idea being that the content when displayed will not overlap with those, but it can go underneath. So that's kind of by default. Now, if you put a safe area in, what that's doing is putting a padding around the list view, which now means it's going to get clipped and cut off at the edges, but it will never overlap, right? So you're kind of like in this kind of middle ground where what do you want to do? And that's where it comes, what I would be suggesting you do. If you want to add padding and have it go behind the bars, then what you do is do media query dot view padding of the context. And then the value that you get back from that is top and bottom, and you apply that to the top and bottom padding that you pass to your list view. And that way, your padding for your list view inside the scroll area accounts for the size of the status bar and the navigation bar. There's some interesting complexities when you start doing landscape as well with that, because you may want to do it on left and right as well, depending on what you're doing. So figure that out yourself, depending on how to handle rotation and orientation. But
is there an easier way to do that with slivers and an app sliver bar?
No, you can do sliver padding. So if you do a custom scroll view, you can then have a sliver padding with the top value, and then you can do a sliver list with the items, and then a sliver padding at the bottom with the thing. But it's kind of done for you when you do a
standard list view
with padding as parameter. Depends on what you're building, right? Because if you want some complex sliver thing that does some complex animations and stuff, then yeah, you can do that, right?
Cool. All right, moving on.
Is there anything anyone wants to add to that? Oh, another thing to mention about the edge to edge is that we did this last week, and I'll show you maybe in a bit. You want annotated region. Annotated region allows you to annotate with system UI style, and that way that it will color depending on how that whatever widget's been annotated. When it overlaps the status bar, it will change the colors of the navigation bar background or icons to match what you've indicated by the annotation. Same for the bottom. And this way, when your content scrolls, you can have, like, if it's dark content scrolling behind, then the white icons can go white so they can be seen on top of that content. You can do all that. And that's built in. You just annotate your widgets with the type of system UI that you're looking for, and it just magically does it.
Nice.
Cool. Alrighty, now moving on to question 3, your final question so far. Oh, state management. Oh, it's always a fun question when we start with state management. To better define state management. I don't want to even read the rest of this. Higher in the hierarchy, screen reviews, or keeping the leaf widgets, even if they're cards or list tiles, and maybe several at the same time. Put your data where it needs to be observed.
Yep. It depends on your use case, right?
Yeah.
Like Nico, right? So let's say you're talking about like these list tiles, right? If those cards need that data and they need it from that point down, then you can put it there. If you want to use it down on multiple screens, then you probably want to lift it up outside of where you have your navigator, so you can use it there on multiple screens. It's really your choice. The whole idea of like state management is to manage the state of your app, right? The state of your UI is ephemeral, right? It stays with the UI, right? Then you may have, like, let's say the current tab that you're on, you may save that. And then in which case that's now app state. It's not ephemeral state anymore, because it doesn't ephemeral state is reset each time you load your app, right? And it's your choice to make that decision between the two and where you want to store it. But hierarchical, like, for most of the time, the idea around having state attached to your hierarchy was like, oh, I can like override it in a certain portion and do something. I've never seen that used, and I've never had to use it myself, right? So it's more about, I think it's turning to more about that screens and views, as you say, sort of like that higher level block logic. But yeah, if depending on like how complex your app is and what you need to do.
One thing I think that gets underutilized is the idea of creating a custom list tile for your list that is a stateful widget. And that way you've got local state with each tile. And sometimes that's useful for the status of your subcomponents and things like that, to roll that up to be one total state for that.
I remember the time when everyone was like, we should make every widget stateless and use Redux at its top level, and it was terrible.
I'm embarrassed that I was part of that movement for a little while. Just a little while. That I learned.
I'd probably do more stateless than a lot of people, but yeah, there's stateful widgets exist for a reason, of course. Okay. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and now that every IDE, every modern IDE, you can start with a stateless and play with it for a while and go, oh wait, I need state, and now there's just like a shortcut, a light bulb that will change stateless to stateful as long as it meets a few very rare to trip up exceptions.
Well, so, and at least in IntelliJ, if I can, if it meets the requirements, I can go back too. Like I say, okay, this needs to be stateful. I go work on it. I realize, oh wait, no, it doesn't. I can actually switch back as long as I get rid of the state that was in there.
Right, exactly. And I've done that too before. It's kind of fun.
Yep.
Yeah, but going back, a couple of things. First off, Randall, RiverPod isn't part of the hierarchy, right? So RiverPod is right.
It's arguable that the injection of provider scope into the context chain makes it hierarchical. But most people don't do it that way. And in fact, that although it was encouraged a couple of years ago by Remy to do that for some operations, that is no longer encouraged. A provider scope overriding parent provider scope is still absolutely supported because it's really handy for tests, but it's also not really something you use day to day. There's lots of other ways with family keys and things like that to actually manage that.
But and kind of going a little bit off of what Simon said, one of the things I've been looking at lately, so I'm not a big fan of this inherited widget style, state. I'm really not. I like to, when I'm, I keep my state typically close to where I'm actually building the widgets and inject them in some way there. But I'm coming around to the fact that also, like in my app, for example, I make an API call and I get the configuration for the app, and that never, ever, ever, ever changes. And it's also, I think, safe for everybody to know it, because this, at least parts of it, like for display kind of stuff, what are my colors? What are my stuff like that? There's no reason why that can't be just known to everybody. And so I'm coming around to where I think that some sort of an inherited widget style thing for that makes a lot of sense, because this is something it's not something I care about other widgets knowing. It's things like, it's like theme, but on steroids, stuff like that. And so, it definitely depends upon what kind of data you're trying to work with, in my opinion.
I would argue that for something like config, if it doesn't need to be observable, in other words, if nobody cares if it would ever change, then just simply having it as a singleton with lazy initialization is probably sufficient. And that can be a global somewhere where somebody can say, I want this XYZ value, and it can be global because it doesn't have to be observable. You don't have to register yourself as being interested in its changes. And in that case, I keep it out of the hierarchy entirely. It's just a global.
Yeah, absolutely.
The point is to always remember, when you think the data will change, will it change? And do you want it to change on the screen when it changes, right? Like, you just don't have to make everything observable, right?
Right. For sure.
We had that in Smalltalk when we hardly ever used it. Yes. All right, continuing on. Harking back to my Smalltalk days. Mike Flutter, come to Harmony OS. I don't even know what Harmony OS is, so I'm going to let other people answer this.
Harmony is the oh my god, what's the company called? The Chinese company.
Huawei?
Oh god,
I don't know how to pronounce
it.
Huawei.
Yes.
I don't know.
Huawei. They got their devices couldn't have the App Store and the Google stuff anymore. So they went, okay, we're going to build our own from ASOP, basically.
Yeah, my AI
better.
my AI overview on it says that they want it to run on smartphones, tablets, smart TVs, and personal computers. So they're trying to kind of create it. And the answer to that, of course, is might it? Of course it might. I don't know that Google's going to make it happen, but that's the beauty of it. And if you create an, if the engine can be, if you make the engine work on it, then Flutter works on it, right?
Oh, interestingly, apparently, the early versions of Harmony OS were based on Android. The latest version is Harmony OS Next is not. Huawei built its own microkernel and does not include Android AOSP core, meaning that meaning incompatible with Android apps and only supports apps in its native app format.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a new platform that would have to be targeted by Flutter. So there's probably more to be done there than anything else. And to be honest, you talk about like, is it going to be supported? That's really down to what their operating system has in terms of support, right? It's not an easy proposition. Yeah.
But I mean, but like Roman always says, if it shows pixels on the screen, it should be running Flutter.
Yes,
including my
refrigerator. My refrigerator, my microwave, they all should be running Flutter. Right.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on. How do isolates work in Flutter? Very well, thank you. This could be a whole show. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, no. So I was looking into the art. Apparently, there's some Arc UI. It's a native programming language for cross UI stuff, and it's called Extended TypeScript. You're writing in.
Whoa.
This has a bad smell already.
TypeScript is already like painting.
Oh, but I love the way it's like, we're going to call it extended TypeScript because we've added our own bits to TypeScript. It's like, great, thanks. That really helps.
How long before that gets IDE support? Huh. If TypeScript was actually the language it should be, it would be not needed to be extended.
Who knows? I'm not even going to go there.
All right. Move on. All right. Oh, wait, let's do it. We got to do this one. How do ISIS work? You want to give the 30-second version of that, Simon?
How do isolates work? With great complexity. So there's actually a Dart concurrency page which goes through it.
Yeah, there is. The async page.
Yeah.
I will go dig that out.
There's actually multiple async pages. There's some of the Dart stuff, some of the Flutter stuff.
In fact, didn't one of the Dart team members do a talk on it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Like observable Flutter or something.
Right. Yeah, probably.
So I'll bring these up on the chat, but these are the two links I'd probably refer you to, which is the official Dart and Flutter documentation. Let me bring this up on stream briefly, and we can make sure that we're learning together.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Get this out of the way because we don't really need that.
Right. Let's go for this one here. Yeah, there you go. How concurrency works in Dart explains the event loop, async language features, and isolates from a high level for more practical examples. Oh, wait, hey a minute. Sorry, it just occurred to me. Who, Ralph? No.
Raphael?
Who's the guy?
The kernel description?
Yeah. No. Well, the Dart language guy was doing.
Okay.
He's got a blog, and he did a whole blog post on this, which real great technical details, really good.
Right. I'm sure Google will find it if we ask well enough. The only question is, what question do we have to ask Google to get the answer?
Well, you have to know his name to ask Google.
Yes, right. What's the name of that guy? Let's see if it can process that.
While he's looking, I was going to say, we've had a couple of eaglets here in the U.S. that a lot of people have been watching, and so I asked Google, is there a time of day they're more likely to fledge? And it came up with with the AI overview said that they can go anytime during the day. It's likely to be during the day, but it's more likely to be in the evening when there's thermals and stuff for them right up, right? Whatever. So then I hit the AI mode. And in AI mode, it said the first part the same, that it can be any part during the day. It's going to be during the day though. But they're more likely to go in the morning because of whatever.
Oh, really? It contradicted
Yeah,
itself. Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, just a little bit of a nice little warning that they can.
I am of two minds about this.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to hold back because I have his blog here. It was Slava, and this is his blog. I'll bring it up on the screen. Why not? There it is. Compiler engineer, and he did one of his talks was the Dart VM, which I think has actually lost its way off this list because it is super old now.
Yes.
This is I'll post this link in the chat. This is the one I was thinking of, but no, it doesn't cover. It covers a lot around the process, and it most probably it's a work in progress. I suspect most of it is still current. Some of it's probably changed. It's quite interesting if you want to know the inner workings and how everything works. But I think, from one of the better word is, I don't think it covers the runtime isolate stuff. Is there documentation in the repo around the isolates? I think there might be. I wonder. Hang on, let me just go take a look at something. I'm trying to find something specifically in here.
Way too much info here.
Yeah, especially because the questioner did actually kind of say where he's coming from, as he was asked about it in an interview. So of course now he's curious on that. So
I mean, the thing is, isolates in a term is a really kind of complex idea.
Right.
So I mean, like the whole notion of the word isolate is an isolated memory space, right? There's something to be said like around. So traditional computing. Okay, we're gonna just kind of go back a little bit here because I think it's worth talking about. Traditional computing is that you have a CPU that runs instructions, and those instructions are presented from memory, and that's called a thread, i.e., a list of instructions. Performs a thread, right, of actions, right? So the CPU running instructions is a thread, and those instructions have to be stored in memory, and that is called a memory space, normally a process, right? So a process is in a sense everything's loaded for a program to run, right? So when you load and run a program, it becomes a process that's running on your computer. So if you open up Activity Monitor on Mac or Task Manager on Windows, you see there's a process list, and you can see all the program code that's running. Now, what happens is if there's a memory, let's say you access a null pointer or whatever it is, like you access a zero memory address, that will crash the CPU, right? Like that will literally trap. It's called a fault trap, and the CPU will execute a special bit of code, exception bit of code, and that will normally crash the program on the operating system. That will cancel the process, and then the program will pop up with, it failed. This program failed fatally. It had to be shut down, right? That kind of thing. So that's kind of traditionally, right, how you do stuff. Then what happened was some things, I think some early things that I remember coming along into this space was Apache doing multi-process stuff when it tries to do, instead of multi-threading. So this is about the fact that, okay, so I'm going to give you a scenario. For these are the people that, I'm going to come off the screen for a second because it's not new. But this is a little bit of background here. I think it's worth most people in understanding. That is, if you've got two threads running, 2 bits of code, and they're trying to read the same memory and modify the same memory, they're going to have a bad time, right? Because you might have one code partially write a number to a bit of memory, and another could try and read it and get the wrong information, right? So that's about synchronization. So to avoid these problems, because the only way you can solve that is to do locking, which means that one thread has to wait for the other one to finish before it can do its job. And then you end up with contention, even locking contention, when you have multiple threads trying to access the same thing. It gets rather confusing and rather complicated. Isolates. Now let's come back to isolates now, right? Isolates allow us to avoid that entire thing, because we can say that all this memory is attached to one thread. Done, right? That is now an isolated block. Now, that may be running multiple isolates in one process, right? Because it's a notion about how it's run, not necessarily about the underlying CPU architecture or how it operates and any of that kind of low-level stuff that we've just been speaking about. So in essence, an isolate is to allow you to run stuff in a separate, run stuff in concurrent operation without having to worry about about thread synchronization and then all this like multi-threading stuff. Mm-hmm. The way you solve that in all these scenarios, in fact, you can solve that with threads as well, is you can send messages back and forth. And this is with shared memory. There's a bunch of other stuff. But the point is, by messaging, what you're doing is you're taking some amount of objects or bits of your code, bits of your running memory, serializing them as a buffer, sending them over to something else, another memory space, another isolate, and have it deserialize them. Just the same as if you had a server and you had your app running on someone's mobile phone and they're sending data to each other, right? It's just on a finite, smaller scale in one process running on one machine, right? It's the same thing. So coming back to, so I just need to kind of explain that kind of underlying stuff, right? So coming back to isolates, what is the whole sort of notion around this is just to ensure that your code can run in parallel, but equally without the problems that inherent with threads and multi-threading. Now, specifically, Dart does not give us anything to do with thread synchronization and multi-threading. That's not a thing that it gives us. It gives us isolates. This is the primitive that it gives us. This may change in the future from some specs that we've been reading. We do not know yet. It's still in development, right? However, the point is that this is the way you do it. So one of the things that what will happen is when you do isolate spawn, you're essentially saying allocate this big like memory, and what it does a fork. So there's a term fork that's been used quite a lot, and like you fork a repo, whatever else. It's a fork in the road, right? That's kind of what it stands for. But the idea is, what it does, it clones everything that's in your current isolate into the new isolate. That's all the running objects that you had were now cloned. And now your new code, your new function that you passed to spawn is now running in that new isolated memory space. The problem is, if you had a global in that one, you've now got a copy of that global in the new isolate. What you've now done, and I'll show you this, right? We can do some live coding on this. But what we don't realize when you're doing multiple isolates, and this is where it trips people up, is now you change a variable in this one, and it doesn't change in the original isolate because there's no transaction, no messages going back and forth, right? So a lot of this stuff, these are very much primitives, but isolate spawn, exit, receive port, send port, all of this stuff is about having a communication channel between isolates, and it's very low level and it's very limited in what it can do. The general gist of what you actually want to do is that you just want isolate.run, run some code and return a value. Isolates is the perfect thing for that, right? Like go off, pass this really heavy JSON code, do this image processing, whatever you need to do, return me back the result. So that's kind of where isolates come into it. Concurrency in Dart here, I posted this link in the chat, kind of goes through more about like the event loop. This is kind of, in essence, it came from originally from like the JavaScript kind of way of doing things, right? A single thread of actions that are being performed. How do I break this down? And feel free to jump in, guys, if you want to add anything. But I will say that the general gist is, if there's some operation that's still needing to run, then the main isolate is still running, right? So the way this works is you have an entry point. This is like any program, by the way. This is not just isolate, but anyway, you have an entry point. It may start a synchronous piece of operating code. Then that code goes into a wait state, right? Your original piece of code. Now the main loop goes, is there another bit of code that's waiting to run? There is. Great. I'll run a bit of that now. And when that code goes into a wait state, okay, it repeats that process. So the main loop essentially keeps running these little bits of code that needs to run until there's no more to run, right? So when the last one exits, that's when it exits. So this is a good example of this. In your main function of let's say you just do some Dart code and you run the main function, then you say, I don't know, start an async function, and that has a future delay in it. Then the main function finishes. Your app does not close when the main function exits. It exits once the future finishes. because they're still running code. Okay, so these notions of having async await and these like little bits of running code is a lot of language called coroutines. It's basically, there's lots of ways of doing coroutines. The idea is it's a smaller portion of a thread. It's some unit of work that can be scheduled in place of it on the thread.
I would think the one thing to add to that, just to make it clear, is that essentially within an isolate, you have cooperative multitasking. You will only switch from one sub-thread to another at very clearly defined points. This is what promises you within a run of 5 or 10 statements that your array is not going to get changed out from under you. It can't.
Yeah. So that's a good point to mention. That's when we reach an await statement. That's now the main event that's going, okay, what else can I do? Right? What else do you want me to do? Like that is literally this point at which it does that. This is why if you do like JSON.decode and that takes longer than one frame, that is 16 milliseconds, you drop a frame. Because now you just paused your entire main thread of your Flutter app for the time it needs to take to use to rendering and everything else. This is why it's really good. And the examples show use isolates for JSON parsing. Now, in truthfulness, most JSON blobs are going to be really small, like 20 lines, in which case there's actually more overhead in spinning up an isolate to decode that, right? So you pick and choose when you're doing this, right? But for example, if I'm going to download like a whole sort of like news feed of cache stuff, blah, 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 it's like a 2 meg JSON file. There's no way I'm passing that on with just JSON decode on my main thread because it would definitely guarantee to mess things up.
Ironically, if you're using isolates to decode JSON, you're taking the original JSON string and turning it into an encoded object to send to the isolate. And then you're decoding it there. It's becoming components. It's becoming objects. And then you're encoding that one more time to come back to the original mainstream. So if you're using Spawn,
there's thought around like how you can still do this, but with a separate library. I mean, there's actually one of the things that can come up. I got caught out by this myself. Is that encoding, decoding in isolates actually causing me to drop frames? Then you have to start breaking up the work. So basically, what you end up doing is you have a stream coming back from the isolate with each object as it decodes being sent over the isolate channel. So you're doing it in small chunks, right? To be fair, like for most applications, this isn't a problem. And so don't worry too much, right? But it's worth understanding and trying these things out, you know. Here's a good example. Here's another example just to say, like, you know, you do like this here, read as string as sync, because read a string is asynchronous. This is synchronous. So this, whilst the operating system is being asked to read the contents of the file, it's blocking your thread. It's blocking your Dart isolate. It's waiting, right? Whereas if it was asynchronous, right, or if you did an await, the Dart thread can go off and do more other coroutines and other asynchronous work that you've been asked to do. And then once that operating system call to read the content of the file comes back to the Dart code, it will then continue it, right? So you may need one or the other depending on your scenario, right? And that's a lot of what can also be said in here. So this is showing you the difference.
I also need to say for the kids, be thankful you didn't grow up in the era where instead of nice JSON that doesn't look too bad going back and forth over the wire, you were using XML.
Oh.
Sorry for disturbing anybody who's old enough to remember that.
And
yeah,
I remember using.
You just get my ticks back again.
When I was working on gift cards and stuff and talking to point of sales that were sending in transactions, those are fixed length strings. Not even. The one thing I might want to add, if I could real quick, since this was kind of an interview question, is the reason why, at least from my understanding, that we have isolates instead of just full-blown threads and stuff is because our code often runs on mobile devices, which have serious limitations for memory processing, those kinds of things. And the Dart team has been very, very tough at guarding, making sure that we're not adding stuff that would cause problems with that. So unlike other languages that have bloated out and you can do, anything you want to be able to do with it pretty much, with Dart, we've tried hard, or I say we, Google has, I guess, is tried hard to keep that, much more tight, so that if we can make a couple of assumptions, like for example, like we've done with isolates here, and we gain a whole bunch of efficiency, that's what we do. And if later on, if we can add to it more, great. If not, then it's still better to be able to make sure we can run on the devices we want to run on at frame rates we want to run with.
Well, I like it also because share nothing threads is easier to think about, at least for me, than having shared threads where you block your data that you need and all that mess.
Reasoning about multi-threading and especially when you start adding the time domain is just
insane. Yep.
You're gonna give yourself a bad day.
I don't think our old timers are already going.
I was having flashbacks because
okay, sorry. Today has been the nostalgia day. I'm sorry.
So here it says it actually says it here, right? Additional asynchronous APIs, most modern devices, multiple core. To take advantage of multiple cores, developers sometimes use shared memory threads running concurrently. However, shared state concurrent is error prone and can lead to complicated code, which we just spoke about.
Yeah.
Instead of threads, all Dart code runs inside isolates. Using isolates, your Dart code can perform multiple independent tasks at once, using additional processing cores if they're available. Isolates are like threads or processes, but each isolate has its own memory and single thread running an event loop, right? Guaranteed.
Yep.
Each isolate has its own global fields, ensuring that none of the state in an isolate is accessible from any other isolate. Isolates can only communicate to each other via message passing. No shared state between isolates means concurrent complexity like mutex or locks and data races won't occur in Dart. That said, isolates don't prevent race conditions altogether. On this reading concurrent model, act model, blah 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 blah, and then so there's some examples here of that, how various things work. I'm not gonna we've spoken a lot about this right now. I think it's quite a well reasoned about and well documented area.
Yeah.
Did just notice there is async. There's a whole bit on asynchronous programming here as well, which you should all read, and then there's a bit on isolates as well. And there's a bit about isolates. So. There you go. There's your send port. Oh god, send port, receive port, the worst naming ever.
Yes.
I'm not joking, because you have to send a send port to receive on a receive port.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a dance to do at the beginning, which is tricky.
Yeah. Yes. There you go. Look, first create a receive port in the main isolate, then pass its send port as an argument to the new isolate spawning.
Yep.
And then it creates its own receive port and sends its send port back to the send port.
Yep.
This is why we do isolate.run and be thankful that it's done for us.
This is why isolate.run is so amazing, because it does all of this real quickly. You just give it a closure and you say, run this somewhere away from me. And it just does it. And then it returns you the result.
Yeah, you may find that when you're running an isolate like that, you get some errors around it can't send certain things across the wire. And that's normally a case of what code you're running and how you're running it, and that's more about what you're passing to the isolate.spawn. There's various different ways of doing it with about a lot of the time you want to kind of do something like a static void like this or something else. You can send functions, but those functions have to be encapsulated in something that means that you're not passing a lot of state across the wire, because it will complain saying can't fork it. But anyway, there you go. So there's examples in here and everything about how to do all that kind of fun stuff. So
cool. More than you ever wanted to know about isolates. And
with that, my hour is up. So
already?
Yeah, I know, right? So I will see you all next week.
Yeah. Yep. Great.
Thanks.
At least a couple more weeks, and then you'll see us in New York. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Great. Okay. Well, here's one last question here. Any idea where to get Flutter Kenya, like FlutterCon USA? I think you need to talk to the GDG Kenya people. They're listed in the standard list of places.
So you can reach out to Joy-Con Global, which is the company that runs FlutterCon. And I mean, if you want to try and arrange a FlutterCon Kenya, I think they've already been working on some various areas. So reach out if you're interested. But it's not don't like. There's too many people who go, I can set up a conference, and it's not easy.
Oh,
Don't fool
you
yourself.
don't want to take that on just amateurly. No, definitely not. Definitely.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
again, the Flutter. There you go. Look, isolates and event loops from
Andrew.
Andrew, and this is on the Flutter page, which is I'm going to say a more briefer implementation, but equally interesting.
And there's tons of articles that people have written. So yeah.
And tons of articles that don't mention isolate run. I flag those all the time on media.
To be clear, for those people that don't, if you use the compute function in Flutter, it does isolate.run, right? Just to be clear, in Flutter has a compute function which is designed for this, like you run something in another thread.
Except isolate run is more flexible because it can also run a closure where compute still needs a top level function.
Yeah. No. It just passes it straight across.
Nope. Read the code.
Okay.
It doesn't want a function. Compute wants a function name. Isolate run wants a closure.
I'm curious because last time I looked at compute, it doesn't take a function name. Yeah,
it did for a long time.
Isolates.compute. It wraps just isolate.run. Looking at it now.
Right.
I think it didn't at one point.
Right. It used to have to be a global function. That was the thing.
Yeah, and then that was before. That was so that was just the case with all isolates. Before you couldn't use closures, and that was before they did the lightweight isolates, because with lightweight isolates, they're not like spinning up the same. And they've just made some improvements. I mean, you can now pass closure as a thing, but yeah.
Yep. All right, we got one more question. It's a follow-up to the question before, and I answered this in the chat already, but basically, if you're going to want semantic understanding to your dispatch, clearly you need to involve an LLM. So you'll need to be either on device with Gemma or off device with Gemini to take the speech, turn it into something you can act on.
Yeah. So to be honest, you don't need a huge LLM for this. You can use on device. This is not the stuff that really needs that kind of complex behavior.
But he wants to do semantic meaning, so he's probably Gemma 3N or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a Gemma package on Pub, isn't it? Was it Flutter Gemma, right?
Yeah.
We spoke about
3N is already there, right?
Yeah. Cool. So I'll pop that in the chat. I think that's the one we're looking at. Flutter Gemma.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
all right. Yeah, if you have semantic understanding that has to happen, you've got to get an LLM involved. So,
right.
Yep. Whereas the normal speech to text is just going to be literally the words they say.
I mean, we were doing this before LLMs, just because.
Yeah, you don't have to. You could parse it yourself and do some things, but it's.
I mean, does anyone remember adventure games? Next adventure games?
Oh yeah, yes.
I don't know.
Noun, verb, verb, noun,
Yep.
verb, noun. Yes.
And you'd have to have all those synonyms for the same thing, right? Because
synonyms. Oh boy. All right, that's all the questions. So if you want to start live coding, I guess it's up to you.
Sure.
We come up with other than isolates. Probably nothing else, unless there's stuff over from last week.
Yeah, I was going to say, doesn't Simon have like the list of things we've talked about?
Yeah,
I want to get that where it needs to be fair, because we've been going on about that for a while, and I think it'd be really cool. So let's see where we're going to. Feel free to get your questions in the chat still. We're still going. Are we getting a screen? That's the question.
We are now.
Hey, isolates. Compute fallback.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. So compute Flutter function just wraps the isolates compute, and isolates compute, which is part of the foundation package. It just wraps isolate.run.
Right, but the interface for
in fact,
compute, it's still more narrow. It's more narrow than just the general isolate run.
No, it's just a
interface.
function. It's just any function. Doesn't mean any function that takes a measure and returns a value. Yeah, but it's the same as this, right? So all it's doing here, you can see they actually make a closure that returns it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want the extra features of a closure, you couldn't use compute, because that's only going to be passing a function that takes the right input.
No. It captures the scope. No, it captures the scope now. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you've got a problem, like when you try to start do compute isolate.run, it's because the scope it tries to capture too much scope they can't transmit across the when splitting up the new isolate. It comes up with some weird funky error for it. I can't remember what it was.
Sure. Okay.
But anyway. Right. Where do we get to before, and where do we want to get to now is the question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
We were fiddling around. We thought we found a bug, and then we realized we didn't, because we didn't set the viewport dimensions. I remember that much. I think it kind of got into this position where I was like, actually, you know what? Like, we're just going to this point where it's like we're probably better moving this down to the render layer.
You should write a Gemma using function that navigates based on speech. Then the original person will have the code right there in your gist.
I wish things was that simple, is what I'd say. Right. So, I mean, we just talked about layout.
Got a question while you're thinking. How would you approach creating a QA agent so you get a list of answers from the user with normal chat? You give it a tool that asks the user, and you let it know that that tool knows how to do that, and then it will use that tool to ask the user questions. That's how, like, Roo does it. Roo has a built-in tool called Ask Question from User. And so the LLM knows to use that whenever it's querying about something.
Yeah, and the other thing you can say is when it wants answers, right, from the user, you can have it present it in a certain format that you interpret and display buttons the user taps on, right?
Yeah, right. And that's what the tool does, something like that. Yeah. Cool.
Anyway. Right.
Oh, and we got a question directly at me without a Q colon in front of it. I don't even know what WASMR is, so I have no idea.
So no.
No, I know nothing about it.
Never heard of it. Nope.
Is it something I should have heard about by now? Like I'm old enough or crazy enough to know it?
Get out.
What the hell is it? Yes, what the hell is it? Now you're gonna make me look it up because I want to see what it is.
Universal applications using WebAssembly.
I have time for that.
WASMR.io.
I know. My limitations for WASM is, there's a WASM switch now on Dart to JS.
Yeah,
That's all I care. That's all I care about WASM, really. All right.
So let's run this up and see where we get to. So this was the original question. How would you guys implement a feed scroll and retain the current scroll offset after inserting new items? And I think don't run it on web. What are you doing? I think the key concept is what we were talking about before, which is it's more about explaining scroll, right? Scroll is a absolute pixel offset. And I think this comes down to what we're just talking about here, right? So there's 3 values involved, right? Let's go down to where I had it. Went too far. Yeah, right here. Here we go. So we have the scrollable actions a position, and a position holds the number of pixels. That is the offset in pixels of where we are. on the scroll. And then there we go. And then the viewport is the amount of the size of the height of the window that we're trying to display content, and the content dimensions is the size of the content. The problem here is that when you put new content in, then yes, your content dimensions change, but so does your pixel position have to change. And then you don't have to lay out those widgets, right? They're not there on the screen yet. So to create that kind of infinite scroll, as it were, that you've got this huge feed that you're scrolling back through of content that you don't even know that existed. Like you could be scrolling and it's loading at the same time, right? Then I think that this is what we're trying to simulate here, right? So we're going to hit play, content's going to flow in, and we want to maintain our scroll position. At the moment, that does not happen. We failed before. It is trickling down. So let's work out how we can kind of address that. So this is more about how we choose to lay out the widgets. So before we talked about, I was trying to take advantage of the fact that list view, this is original stuff down here, I think it was. Yeah, list view has a, where is it? A center widget and anchor. I was trying to take advantage of that. Didn't kind of work out well. So we started trying to do something different and implement it ourselves. Also didn't quite work the way I wanted. So I think we're kind of like going back down the sort of UI stack a little further. So let's take it to first principles and say what we're trying to do. And we're not going to ignore what's in here right now. We're just going to say what we're trying to do and then how we're going to get there, right? So first of all, we made a custom scroll controller just so we got infinite scroll, just to get rid of the need for dealing with min max. Our little animated play pause buttons are the fun thing to have at the top. That's fine. No worries there. And we got our post cards, which is this lovely sort of cards. And then they always remain the same color because the color is chosen based on the hash code of the text. So the text is current, is consistent, then so will the card color be consistent. So this is just for debugging ability and sort of seeing it.
Making it pretty.
Making it pretty as well, yeah. And then we've kind of got our list, our news post list, where we want all this magic to happen. So I was trying to do it with widgets just to kind of not have to involve other layers of this. I think it's not going to work right now. So the question is, how can we rectify this? So I think the first thing is to annoyingly, I think there's a point here, which is this cannot obey the standard scrolling and that's built into Flutter because it's just built in this absolute principle, and trying to work around it, it's not working. So I think the next thing I would be doing is going, okay, let's do that ourselves, right? So what can we do there is the next question. Can we take advantage of scrollable in a way and use that? I don't see any reason why we can't, because this, this is based on content dimensions again, which kind of like gives us the problematic bit of knowing what the content size is, and we don't know that. Let's lay out these widgets, and we'll base it off a custom sliver scroll view, and we'll lay out them based on our own options, I think. Yeah, we're going to do that. Let's see what happens here. Let's see what happens. So,
ship it.
I'm gonna leave. I'll leave that where it is. We'll create a new post list, and then we'll get rid of this old one in a second, right? So we kind of want a sliver news post list or something. No, let's just call it post list P2. There you go. Oh yeah, wonderful, right?
I'll do it. Make a V2. That's even better. That's one better.
Right.
One better than the old V1.
So if you want any portion of the screen to be represented by slivers in the underline, which is viewport. And see, this is where I have a problem, right? This is going to be based off of offset, which is this viewport offset. So when we, okay, let's have a think about this. If we were to make the content dimensions infinite, I wonder if we, first of all, I wonder if we can do that. Does that help us at all? Yeah. Effectively, what we're trying to do is when we scroll, the original concept at least was when we scroll, we capture the new scroll offset and treat that as our 0 point. So it's always basically at the moment, what we're doing is we're storing an offset from the item at 0. So that way, whenever you scroll, what you're actually doing is it doesn't matter if new content gets added at the top and bottom because it's not going to change your position of scroll. That was the original principles. What went wrong is the question. So when we, right now, hold on a minute. Did I just answer my own question, I wonder? Maybe. Or do I want to do this? Okay, so let me run this past you chaps, and we'll see what we get here, right? So right now, the reason why when we hit play and the content gets pushed down is because all we're doing is we're adding new postcard widgets in, right? So our translate.transform is around the entire column, right? But this pixel position here, it's really about how this is laid out, right? It's not about the scroll. Let me look at this viewport here. Let's.
Many transforms for me to.
I mean, the viewport dimension, that's expected. Content dimensions, min and max scroll extent. We could provide that as infinite right now. I mean, we can look at how we want to tie that to limitations.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick here. The argument minimum, maximum scroll. The minimum will be equal to or less than the maximum. And in the case of slivers, the minimum will be equal to or less than 0. The maximum will be equal to or greater than 0. So the original concept, I think we were fixed viewport offset. What's a fixed viewport offset? And why is that applied content dimension just does true? Oh, is this because it's like creates a viewport offset with a given pixel value and does not change unless the viewport issues a correction. Interesting. Okay, so that would allow us to use the viewport, but also choose our own viewport offset, right? So we could say viewport offset fixed at whatever scroll position we want. We're not going to build any custom slivers. We're going to use this magical widget.
Sliver bell, sliver bell. It's sliver time in the App Store. I'm going to get a needle drop hit.
Sorry?
I'm gonna get a needle drop hit because I said a copyrighted song.
So this is interesting, right? This gives us our. It should give us our remaining paint extent and our scroll offset.
A lot of math here.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, there's a couple of ways of tackling this, and I'm just
Yeah.
I still can't keep going
Anybody-
back to the original idea, right? Like,
yeah. If you have more questions, just feel free to keep asking them. I'm watching for them.
to the chat, yeah.
Yes, especially this.
I mean, I know we did this. All right, I'm just going all over the place now. Right, let's backtrack this, right? So, new content being displayed. We only need to display the content when we scroll. And at the moment, we're presenting with all UI, half the problem.
So the idea is if something gets inserted above or below the currently visible area, don't scroll.
Don't change the scroll position, right?
Right.
It's that simple, really. That's what we're trying to do, right? Now, that will be definitely correct if we talk about what we're doing now, which is we lay out based on a particular piece of data and we lay that out, right? So to me, this is just a layout problem, right?
Yeah.
As long as we know, like, we need to treat the scroll offset as a delta between the current element that's visible at 0 position and where you're scrolling to. When you let go, we reset that, right? So it doesn't matter, like, if something comes in above, because it's not considered anything to do with the scroll pixel offset. Right? That solves the kind of idea where the scroll is absolute, and when new content comes, it pushes it down. But I'm like thinking to myself, do you even need to do any of that? Because if we can, the whole problem here is that if we control the layout of which elements are visible, this is where I was going with this, like, sliver, this notion of sliver, right? So if we know the scroll offset, we know what postcard should be visible, we lay out based on that, then in effect the no. Yeah, because the idea I had originally was just to still use the scroll pixels, just to kind of like allow us to continue using the scrollable widget and all the stuff that brings and everything else, right? So the only way that can work is if we apply the viewport dimension and the content dimension. The content dimension right now, I don't know, should in effect could be infinite, right? Meaning that it doesn't matter what content is. We would still need to then stop the scroll. We can do that with a notification listener, where when we get start scroll, if it goes beyond our bounds of content, then we tell it to stop the scroll, right? Like, we can do that kind of like override behavior. But this one feels like I'm fighting the platform at this point. Like, what are we actually getting? So so particularly here, what we get from the idea of what we get from the viewport is essentially the same thing. Like, this is the whole idea of the viewport is it's calculating what portion of the scroll viewport should be visible based on the scroll pixel offset that you've given here, right? Now, this can be our fixed offset. This means that it doesn't matter what new content's coming in, it's not going to change until we scroll. So, see, at the moment, what's the problem really is the fact that the content size is being changed, right? So when we add new widgets, it calculates the content height and essentially sets that. That's what list view kind of does for us, right? It has an it calls apply content dimensions, which is what's causing the trouble. So I'm just thinking about, like, if we were just to wrap this, maybe we just get going with what I originally thought of doing, and then like we come back to this. We just this is going to be pretty lame right now. Like, we would need to do a bit more with the fling behaviors, right? Yeah, I mean, like, well, let's just do moving right now and see what happens, right? So we could do like on vertical drag start. Make this stateful. And we can come back to very similar to what we were doing before, which is follow the annotated, the idea of keeping which post should be the first post. No, you can use a gesture detector. Out of the box. Oh no, yeah. I mean, it will work out the box for what we need. Like, it'll find the gesture arena and it will do all this stuff. The problem is when you do things like end, you'll get a velocity, and you have to apply that somewhere, which is to a scroll controller. That's how like the platform does it. So if we want something like that, we would have to like deal with how we want to do flinging and animation, which is a whole thing that we're not going to deal with now if we do it this way. This is why I didn't want to go approach this. I wanted to use the scrollable, because the scrollable does a bunch of this stuff for us, right? And I don't have to clone the code. And I'm just debating. I mean, we may be able to switch this out, right? Because still kind of coming back to the notion of have a scrollable, make sure its extents are like the extents that's scrolling are infinite, and then we're just using it to animate and change our offset. It just, yeah. Oh, well, let's just see where we get to. Right, so let's do let's just do this pixel offset. Let's just do something really, really basic, right? And then we can kind of come back and make this all the more better, right? So this is probably a bad idea, but we're gonna do it.
Pixel start, pixel offset. Oh, interesting.
So this is more, well, I'll come back to this in a second, I think. Let's just see. There's a couple of different ways of dealing with this, and we'll see what happens. Let me just do this. So pixel offset. The thing is, you can just apply the delta in effect. That may just be enough to deal with this. Since we're scrolling the whole panel, we're scrolling the whole visible area. You know what? Let's just do that to see how this behaves. And then when it comes to the slivers, let's do a sliver list. I feel like I've just had a little epiphany, and I think I've just made a complete mistake about all of this.
Oh no.
We're going to find out.
We're gonna have to mark this day on the calendar if it's truly
Yeah.
something a mistake. Then we can celebrate it annually. June
Well,
4th.
put the tape in the archives and
Yep. Every year we can celebrate June 4th being Mistake Day.
I'm not. I think I've just realized I'm just going to all around the houses for something that would actually just work out in the box.
Oh. Did something the hard way. Multiplication by repeated addition.
been there, done that.
Exactly. I always love when people add 0.1 to a value and then hope it is exactly 17.0 at the end or something. You're not going to get there. You're not going to get exactly to 17. Oh, you won't.
Something in my brain is telling me that I want to implement this callback in the order in which the builder returns children if the order in which the builder child ever changes. Consider providing this. This allows the delegate to find the new index for the child that was previously located at a different index to the attached to the existing state. This might just be like.
I thought Keys did that for you.
It's different with slivers. Well, it's complicated. That's what it is.
Yep, I know. I'll shut up. I'll shut up. Don't worry.
I'm just wondering if we implement this, if it will actually just deal with this for us, maybe. Right, let's do this. V2. Right. Oh dear. There's our V2 scroll. Does nothing. What did one do wrong? Right, let's have a look. I did behavior. Let's do this for now. I think I need to start. Do I need to start this? Oh, I'm an idiot. Close your eyes. Don't look.
I'll use white out on my screen here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, plus equals minus.
That joke dates me because nobody's using white out anymore.
Okay, so I have stupid scroll.
Yep.
Right, like it's really, really basic, but it works. Look, I'm scrolling content.
Nice.
Right? So that's nice. If I now put content in, you'll see it pushes it down.
Oh.
Right? And that's all because the scroll position. See what happens if I add in this. I can't see how this will make any difference, to be honest. I feel like you just can't do this with we just lay out the widgets ourselves, right? Choose which children to lay out based on which postcard is at the top, like we were choosing before, and this makes the most sense to me. Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just see what happens. It can only go wrong. So we will do something similar to what we did before. find, we're going to find new origin post. Yeah, so we're going to want a key for that one. Yeah. Sorry for the up and down. What's
But it
this?
has a follow-up here. Is there a way to preserve the ballistics inertia of
Yes.
a drag or gesture?
Yes, by preserving it.
Good. Sure,
sorry,
that answers it.
That's not very helpful, is it? Give me a second. We'll talk about that.
Sure.
It's a fine Wednesday, Paco. Yes, it is. Where are we? Too far. Keep going too far. There we go. Now I think we're gonna try something here. If we had a, I feel like we could actually replace sliver list. I feel like there's actually like there's a way of doing this with sliver that I'm just really not sure that I want to like dive into that like whole bag right now. What might work is a slightly different widget here. Actually, we use this on the circular scroll delegate. So the widget we're looking for is flow. Is it? Oh, this is getting this realm of like we actually want our own render object.
Build it all the way from scratch.
Let's do it with flow and then see if we can improve it later with a render object. Because there's no basically this is more about optimization when you go to a render object anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll call
And
this
more flexibility.
List role delegate. Why not?
Still think in a future show you ought to try to use vibe coding and then get angry at the code that comes out. You'd be constantly like
screaming at the computer. That's going to help everyone. Sure.
Yeah. The angry show. We're coding with anger.
All right. So let's see. Children. Let's not go through that. This would be oh, yeah. No, sleep.
I miss vibe coding because we didn't do a show on Sunday, so it was like, okay, I got to wait another week to watch Norbert attack the program again.
Does Flow require you to lay out every widget? I'm trying to remember. One of them does.
It would have to, wouldn't it, to know how to place them?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this is the.
I mean, it has to at least lay out the ones that are still on the viewport.
This is essentially this is the problem, right? We only like. This is why I said we either want to build a pattern where we're requesting the widgets that we need to fill the viewport,
Right.
or we want to use, or we provide all the widgets for the viewport, but only lay out those that fill the viewport, right? Or we
This
just
is where-
build out everything, but we base it off of the center point of where we are. I mean,
This is where I wish there was a common library available somewhere where you would say, here's a list of things to pack in bins or whatever. And it would just do that and tell you how they all go together with minimal interaction. Because I'm thinking we have the same problem with paragraphs, trying to mimic what fill paragraph does, render paragraph. Because we want to know where to put the ... in the middle, like you keep asking for, and all those things, right? It'd be nice if we had these kind of filling algorithms available to us as a library somewhere. Probably one in the pub, and I just haven't looked for it.
there's only a
Hundreds
few
of
things to parse through. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There's only so many ways to write code like that. That sounds like a junior year student could probably hack that out and publish it and get themselves some fame and credit. And it's been done already, and I just haven't bothered looking for it because I'm lazy. I'm so lazy I won't even use somebody else's boring code. It's true.
we actually had something similar, didn't we? Yeah. Get in there. Right. So we're going to pass over the origin post and the pixel offset to our layout. This is to be clear for those that don't understand. So flow. That's a good point. How to explain flow? Flow is all about giving the just where the position of paint, where the children are painted, and each child gets the same constraints. So get constraint. Wow, looks like you can provide one for different index, but you can't base the constraints of one child off another and stuff like that. This is like this more complex that we'll do. In this case, we want return back some box constraints, and then it's type for width. Right. Should repaint. Well, we should repaint when any of these inputs have changed. So it's a covariant, meaning that we should be putting that type in there. Or so offset equal offset. There's some slightly better ways of doing this. So the delegate construct, I believe, takes a listenable route to repaint. So what we could do is join these into a record together, and then we post that as a listenable, and then it will it will just repaint when required, which means you don't have to do a rebuild. At the moment, we're doing a rebuild for each time the pixel offset changes, which we can optimize out in a minute. All right, so now we're down to paint children. So we kind of need to find out which child. Yeah, this is going to do this. So yeah, so the children are based off index, which is what we don't want, because when we insert new posts, while we're changing out index. If we're doing a custom layout, this isn't a problem. It's kind of just push me back over to why not do a custom layout. Let me just have a quick look at something.
Boxy, just do it with Boxy.
I think Boxy wouldn't make any difference here either. Really.
I know. It's just a nicer wraparound custom layout.
It is quite nice, actually. I used it the other day on site.
Cool. Those that aren't familiar, I'll put a link here.
What's the delegate? The delegate. Multi-child layout delegate, of course. I think we might actually be able to. We'll try one and then see where we go. And we might come back. Let's just go now. Oh, origin post is a string. And it's a nullable string because the first one may not be known. Okay, that makes our lives so much easier. So we'll pass over posts here as well. So just a list of strings. This is because we need to look up the original data set. So we would lay out, we need to find, okay, so the algorithm that we're looking to do on this layout is the origin post, the post at the top of the viewport. We need to find out what index that is. So final origin index equals posts dot index of origin post, and then if origin post is null, then it's 0, right? So we'll default that. There you go. Okay, so now we want to say layout origin post. Let's do origin post down, and we'll also have to maybe deal with up. There might be one more post above, and if we set our origin to the center of the screen, then it's up and down. But we'll do this for now. So for final I to equal bar I origin index minus origin index is less than widget posts dot length. No, not widget one. Sorry, post dot length. Get child size. Oops. And then paint child, and then we want to give it a transformation matrix. And we'll do a matrix. We're just going to do a simple translate. Our x is 0, our y is the only value that we want to change. Delta y. Our d as we lay out the widgets, our dy value is going to start as pixel offset. Might be negative pixel offset. And And then after we lay out one widget at that position, we want to increase dy by the height of height of the previous child. We want to stop laying out, not just when we reach the end of the post, but when we reach the end of the viewport. So this is when dy or dy is greater than or equal to size viewport size dot height. And we'll grab that. Yeah, size. Is it context? Is there a context? Context dot size. Sorry. Context. Dot height. Right. Okay. We implemented this, right? Yeah. All right. Restart. See what happens. Okay, we have widgets. This is good. And can we scroll those widgets? They scroll in the opposite directions. I thought that's fine.
Scroll.
It's backwards,
sign.
forwards, doesn't matter.
A minus sign.
Oh, and then we crashed on.
You have an extra minus sign there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to type it in, and we got a crash. Where was I? Yeah. When I stop scrolling, let me just restart this. So scroll, let go. Oh, hell broke loose. Find new origin post. We got null checks. Paint child null check.
Went up on the top of the second hour.
Okay, so get child size. The size of the ith child, if I is negative or exceeds child count, returns null. And the parent is returning null? Well, that's unexpected.
Yeah.
Oh, if I is less than dol. Try that again, Simon. Okay. Is it the same place? It is. Well, we can do if size is null. I want to print out index saying either null for this index, and then we're going to break the loop. 20. How do we display 20? We should never be displaying 20.
You're only making 20, right? So
yeah, but that's my point. Like
yeah, it should be 0 to 19, right?
Oh, and dy is less than that. That's probably my fault. Let's try now. There we go. Okay, so let's scroll. Let go. Okay, now we've got the next problem. This is have a problem trying to find the debug layer of the viewport because I put it on the wrong widget now. Right, let's try again. Yay. Guess what it's doing? It's only working. Right. So if I have new posts coming in, well, pushing it down. Hang on a minute. Why would that do that? What did I? Oh, what? 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 What is all this picture? Oh, because we didn't find the new origin. Because we didn't do found. So, okay. Are we saying we have no annotations then? Possibly. Annotate region string post. I think I might know what's going on. Does this add unwrapped as well? I think it might be adding repaint boundaries to the children, in which case the annotations only live in those layers. I'm expecting when we stop to get an output here because we've done the drag end. But basically what's happening right now is it's not even entering this, right? If I put a breakpoint here and I scroll, this is coming back with no annotation results. This was working the other day, wasn't it? I remember it was. Offset
it was working
0.
earlier. It was working earlier today.
Zero. Which is interesting. I mean, I don't particularly like using this debug layer, but I was trying to work out a way of getting the set layer. There's a get layer. Where's debug layer where they're posted? I'm now very confused. Zero. Let's just do this just so we can kind of track it a bit easier. 0. Okay, cool. Question is, why does one not see the annotated regions? So it's doing exactly what okay, I know what it is.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
So we are idiots, okay? Just that you know, we're all idiots.
Speak for some.
No. So I literally said at the beginning, which was Flow just paints it at a different position. It does not lay it out at a different position, which means our annotated regions are laid out like
somewhere else.
On like they're not like not actually laid out in that way, right? Like so they're just painted. This is the painted difference. It doesn't mean they're laid out. So we can fix this up probably relatively easy, right? So we'll do what I started doing, which was, in fact, I just deleted the code, didn't I? Let me pop this back to how we had it. Undo. There we go. So we're doing a different style of delegate, where we're laying them out. We're basically just doing like a little lift and shift here. Slightly different code, but not by much. So same thing for parameters. Let's bring those up. Should I relay out based on if those parameters changed with delegate parameter? Yeah, or posts. Actually, if the post change, we don't want to relay out, so that's fine. Now, I forget what function it is. It's perform layout, right? Like get size. I read some information on the size of the object given the income trends. This is the size of the children. Is it not? No, this is the size of this widget. So perform layout is fine. So we just need to override perform layout, which we've got here. Cool. So what we're going to do, same code here. Take it up, drop it in here. So size coming in is our context size. So that's fine. And this becomes child size. So we can differentiate that from the content size. To get the child size, we actually need to layout the child. So layout child will return its size, but we need an ID. What we're going to use for IDs is what I wanted to use originally, which was the post ID. So we're going to wrap these in a layout ID widget, which is how you deal with these. That's how we ID the child going in instead of like a key. Don't need a key on that anymore. We'll put the key on this, and then the ID value will just be the post. Obviously, anything unique will do the job. So down here, this becomes we want the post at this site, post at this index, because we're using it as the ID. We can extend this to be actually like a post model and actually show how you do it properly. At the moment, we just use like a list of strings, which is meh. And then the constraints, all the child constraints, all the constraints that we'll pass in will be the same for each child, which is based on the width, which is what we did before. So it's this one here. Oops. Font size. And then we want to position that child based on offset, which is what we did before. So 0 dy, and then increase dy by the child size. Okay. This is good, yeah? Restart, see what happens. Will it blend? Apparently it does not blend.
Will it scroll?
I think this is going to complain that all the widgets weren't, all the childs were not like laid out.
Children.
Yeah. Each child must be laid out exactly once. Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Yep.
So this is why you have like, well, it's complicated. I'm not gonna go there. Right. So what we're going to do, we're going to lay them all out, but we'll position them off screen. This is going to be really lame right now. I just want to see if it works, right? And then we'll work out how to resolve that separation.
What we need is a virtual world that we can put all these things in behind the screen, and then it'll just cut automatically because the screen's only so big. Which is essentially what you're doing when you're doing
Actually, we could just lay them out like that. Yeah. Let's do that. Lay them all out. There you go. Oh, because
no, lay them all out. Lay them all out. Oh, you found it?
hang on.
Oh boy. Good answer, Verdi.
What?
Oh, for this scroll position preservation.
No,
Makes
yeah, well,
Oh,
this
for
is what
this.
but this is what we're trying to do, right? So what I really
Yeah.
want to do is actually take all this, and then I think we could like push this back into the repo, because I've always felt that the pixel offset stuff is just not adequate, right?
Yeah.
It's great for like a simple approach, but I feel like there's a layer of abstraction missing from that whole thing.
There's this weird jump when you go from items to pixels and back, and then you don't have support directly in the framework, but the framework's having to compute all this stuff behind the scenes anyway. So it'd be nice to have a more visible access to that. That's what what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Well, yes and no. I think there's definitely well, let's see if we can come up with a concept that works and then go from there.
Okay. Yeah, right. Let's get code that works. Ship it.
So we're going to do something sneaky here. We're going to have close your eyes. Right. Hang on. Restart. No errors. That's a good sign. They're laid out on the screen. I can scroll them.
Scrolling. And it blows up. Null check used to null value.
No, we're getting this because I'm wrap this in a question. There we go. Cool. But just to explain what I just did there, I needed a layer, right? And repaint boundary puts a layer into the layer tree. So that's just like a nice little way of just hacking that in, basically. It's not a hacky way, it's just the right way of doing it. But anyway, so now here we go. We scroll and we found a particular post at a particular offset.
Yep.
And what's interesting is the jumpiness that we're getting here, right? So 7.
Ooh, yeah. What's this? Tripping. Is it changing colors too? No. Okay.
No, I'm trying to work out like. Hang on. We reset the scroll offset, sure. But it's always relative to the post, right? So I'm trying to like work out here like what. So when we're at 0, look, this is working fine. That's interesting. Yeah. So is it because I'm doing this? Hang on. The whole idea of doing this was to work out. Well, let's work out what this well, actually, let's do something really stupid right now, and then we'll see what happens, right? So the way it sits right now is it will always snap. Oh, hang on. So that should be post 1, post 3. That would make sense, right? So if I scroll down, so post 3 is there now, right? If I scroll down to 6, 5. Okay, let's do 8. Huh. Is this maybe we're not accounting for the position of the layer? So offset 0 is global. Is this a global position? Local position. Okay, let's carry on here. The scroll, so 10 is at the top, makes it 9, So 12 is there. 11. Oh, wait. Hang on. Is this going to be a stupid... Hang on. Let me just check. I might just copy.
One error.
We don't... The reason why it looks like we're dragging down, we're not, is because I don't lay out what's above. Let me just go back up to the top here. Okay, so that works. 0.
Weird.
5.
Still jumping.
Yeah, no, it will jump because I'm resetting the position. What I'm just trying to work out here is this local position that we're getting back. What is it like? I feel like it's relaying it to the right, like we're accounting. There's a couple of pixels off here, basically, which is what the problem is, right? So for example, when it's detecting which one at the moment. Oh, sorry, your face is in the way, but let me do that then. So at the moment, if I scroll and see 3 is the one at the top, pose 03 is the one in red. Let go. It's detecting 2. When basically it's 0, 0, there's definitely not a 2. So what I'm trying to work out here is, I think the layer, the local layer inside is accounting for this height of this, right at the top of the screen.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the layer, does the layer have a offset? What they do. Yeah, well, you have an offset layer, a container layer. Contains children. This is a quick look. Supports rationalization. Build scene. There's our find annotations. Let's scan through these a second. Right. Let's see what type of layer this is. This.
All right. And I think I'm going to have to drop. I've got to get ready for a meeting here.
Okay.
Thank you for coming. And check back and see. You can check back at a later date and see if we solved this.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
See you, John.
Oh, hey, about that. It actually worked.
Now it works. It was John. John was interfering. Yes, John was interfering somehow.
Yeah. So what I've done here, for those that are just trying to understand here, so it's an offset layer, so it has a starting offset. This is kind of interesting because this says it's local to the offset that I'm kind of querying from is local to the layer, but actually it's not accounting for the fact that this layer has an offset. I'm not sure why. I think we just might have found like a little bug because it doesn't quite make any sense. Look, minus offset. Like this is treating as a global position, not a local, right? If it was local to the layer, then offset would already be accounted for because like this would be position 0. So anyway, hopefully that kind of right. So now the question is, given the way that we now laid this out, if I hit play, let me move this up, hit play. There we go. So that's actually producing posts now. And if I scroll up, he says, where are they? Oh, because we no. This is my fault. I told it posts does not equal all delegate dot posts. not laying out when the posts change, right? So that'd be one thing. I'm also going to say that let's just restart. Is it a pen? Yes, that's pushing down because we're at the top, right? But if I scroll down past the first one, that's really interesting. I really wish I had Fling right now. Okay, let's do dy. How can I do this? Right. Rather than just doing this, if origin less than this, then it's kind of want to do two layouts. This is where I kind of came to before, right? Which is you do two layouts, right? You do one which is origin index whilst I is greater than 0, I minus is origin index whilst I is some post count. Just dy1, dy2. Right. Right. Ooh. Interesting. This is each child must be laid out once. It's like I'm laying out the children twice or something.
That's not good.
Reset. Let's reset that and just have a quick look. What have I done wrong here? Oh, great. They're not equal to 0. Don't. Try that again. So scroll down. So number 3 is our top one. Cool. Hit play. Does not scroll. If I scroll back up. It's interesting that it's jumping.
Yeah.
See, this is what I'm expecting to have, the behavior I'm looking for, right? Which is now new widgets are going in.
Right. Yeah.
It's working. I mean, look, I can scroll, look, and it's not, and the posts are still coming in, by the way. It's still adding new posts. It's not scroll, and it's not moving around. Whether it is, if the new post comes in as I'm doing my drag, it's affecting it, right? Because I only do look up the post. It's interesting that it never happens going down. It only happens going up.
Mm.
I mean, it's It's detecting the right widget. Is it because negative? I just been off all this time. Is that one? You see now? No, now it's fucked. Pardon my French. I can keep it going now. And okay, let's stop that.
The problem is when you're inserting items early in the list, right? And it has to do all the bounced calculations to figure out where the new offsets are for everybody.
No, you shouldn't need to do that, right? Because that's what I'm trying to say. Look, if I hit play like this, look, they're coming in, they're laying out perfectly fine, right?
Right.
They're going to be relative to the post that was found, right? When I scrolled.
Mm.
I mean, effectively, my scroll offset is never more than 80 pixels, right?
Mm.
It's only whilst I'm dragging that it ever gets greater than that. And when I let go, it resyncs to the value that it should be.
Oh, okay.
Which is correct. I mean, this is working, right? Now we could obviously update this with a scroll. We can add we could change this out for a scroll controller, and yeah, modify that. Like there's we can do that. Again, we're laying out all these children, so all the children you see off screen are actually getting laid out right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right, ideally we can actually do the builder pattern and actually have it so that it only requests for the widgets it needs for the screen to lay out. I mean, look, it's not working the way I want it to work personally, but it is working. Let's drop all this because this is in the previous one.
Verdi asks, does not support flings just yet, right?
No, it doesn't. I mean, so what would be what would be a simple way of implementing fling? That's the question. I mean, we'll either implement scroll controller and tell it to do it, right? Like we can do that.
Yeah.
Which might be the easiest way of doing it, to be honest. And then what we do is we essentially replacing pixel offset here with a scroll controller. I mean, let's try it, right? So this will tell it to automatically read out when the scroll position changes. And then pixel offset, we'll change this, but this will be dot position dot pixels. Should just be constraints dot biggest, I think. Yeah. Right, where was I? Right, so that's enough for controller there. We'll pass in the controller here. And then I mean, if we do this.
Yeah. Speaking to a former Android developer here, how flexible is this compared to, say, what you would have been able to do on Android?
Oh, super flexible.
So, like,
I mean, like, I don't know. I think there's a lot more boilerplate that you would have to do on Android, right?
okay.
Like in terms of you end up having to handle the I think called mouse events, but the actual events coming in, pass them to like velocity trackers, actually, dealing with changing the pixel offset and moving it. Like there's the whole idea of just having like a gesture detector, for example, is just like, gone. It's what someone said earlier about dealing with distance. So you don't have to go down to that level.
Yeah.
I think there's no recycling. There's none of this kind of. You'd have to attach and detach children and like do all that kind of stuff as well, right? So like you wouldn't there's a whole lot you'd have to do in terms of just layout, right?
Oh, I'm so happy I got to miss Android and iOS then. So.
Actually, no, because I actually had to do that. So I made so there's a thing called there's actually a thing called Recycler View on came out in the Android Compact library originally, and from what I believe, some of my code might have been used as some of the foundation of that at the time.
Nice.
I was in contact with some developers at Google, and I was showing them what we were doing at the time, and saying that we need this kind of recycling behavior, and that's kind of I think we kind of co-developed. Like I was working on our one that we were doing, and then Recycler View was coming out inside the Compact library internally.
Cool.
But yeah, anyway, long time ago.
Yep.
Right. So okay. So vertical drag update. We can now get rid of the set state and just do jump to jump to. I don't think there's like a delta, and I don't think this is always absolute. I think, isn't it? Yeah. Well, there was for some reason I feel like there was is it on position, move by or something like that.
Jump to, right? I'll move to.
Yeah, no, I was wondering if there was like a move by, like a jump by, it's like
relative.
a delta, right? Because at the moment, the annoying thing here is I need to go grab the position, check to see if the position is like, anyway. So,
Right.
we'll do this for now, and then we'll probably switch it out for scrollable in a second. Then we don't have to implement everything, because officially we should be doing like is scroll notifiers. So is it scrolling? If it's scrolling, then it stops scrolling, and when you tap down and blah 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 blah. Don't want to have to deal with all that garbage right now. Like this should just be a thing this has always annoyed me. There's just be a thing in there which is like pixels or 0 or pixels or deep with default or something, right? Get pixels with default value or something stupid. The amount of time you have to like check all these things is just super annoying. Right, and then annoyingly, I want to fix this up. The update callback takes drag update details. There we go. And this will be drag end details. I think. Cool. End details is a similar thing. We want to set that equals to this. So. Okay. So let's see if we have.
Position it already is at.
Sorry.
Shouldn't it be a no up? I thought you were setting it to the position it already was at. Maybe not. Jump to first into local position DY. Isn't that
No.
words? Okay.
Right. Oh, I broke it. What do we break? Render box is not laid out.
Not again. Those lazy freaking render boxes. They never get laid out.
Restart. Scroll view not attached to any scroll views. So no position. Of course. Of course. Let's just replace this with a scrollable and be done with it right now.
Something got loose. Something didn't connect up. You generally shouldn't need a scrollable directly, right? That's more of a base class to form things like scroll bars or list views and stuff, right?
Well, that's what we're doing, right? Yeah, but normally you wouldn't need to do that, right? Normally you do like list view or something because we're doing something magical.
Okay.
This might mean that we can actually like listen to the position. Let's do that. Let's do that in here. See if that makes any. Not that it makes that much difference. Or shouldn't make that much difference, but let's do that. I feel like that's yeah. Oops. Right. Okay, good. We have widgets.
Yeah, the widgets came back.
And let's scroll.
Hey.
Ooh, flings. Ooh.
That's it. Nice.
Yeah, I let go and it's off it goes.
Whoa.
So we hit play. Yeah. We're back to square one.
Yay. All the way back to square one.
Hang a minute. Oh, I think I know what's going on here. Hang a minute.
Oh. Breakthrough time? Breakthrough?
Well, I just scrolled in and it wasn't getting of course it's not going to work unless you can get the annotation and it's not working anymore. Look, when I scroll, we're not getting the printout for it finding the annotated item. Oh, because we're not running this anymore when we scroll. All right, so we should let's do something. Let's do something crazy. Let's do something crazy.
Be thankful I haven't figured out how to wire a soundboard in here yet into my stream. I'm sure it's 2 clicks away. Then I could have had the Homer Simpson dough right there. That would have been good.
All right. I have an idea. It's a crazy idea, but we're going to do it.
Actually bought a soundboard app. I don't know why, because I haven't used it once yet.
It was there. It's a temptation.
It was one of a suite of. I bought pretty much everything else that Rogue Amoeba has, and Rogue Amoeba is this really great audio management for Mac OS, and my sound source and looper and all sorts of great things. And one of the things was a soundboard, and I went, I could use that. I'm sure I could use that sometime soon, so I bought it anyway. It's not like $30 or something.
So why'd you call this crazy? Why'd you call this crazy? This isn't crazy.
Why did I call it crazy? Why did I call it crazy? It's just
no. Verdi in the chat is saying, like,
oh,
this is
okay.
crazy. It's like,
oh, he's calling it crazy.
Why is it crazy? What? That's why would you? We're not building custom lists from scratch. No, we're not.
Right. Not quite.
But equally,
Well,
that's the purpose of what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
So the whole point is that we're trying to change behaviors of a list that is not supporting the default things. So then you're going to be building your own, right?
Right. Yep. And hopefully there are enough of the other components that you can wire together that would mimic the things that you get from a list view normally.
All right, let's try this. That much of a thing is scroll preservation. Well, no, this is not. I think you literally, this is the same on every platform. You have no idea. Every platform you've ever seen, this is a problem. This is why it's not seen. You don't see this a lot in many things, right? Because by default, scroll offset is an absolute positional offset.
Right.
On every built-in widget, on your browser, on all of that stuff, on Windows, on Mac, on like everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, don't. I know you say it's crazy. It is, but it's equally like this is not like your expected behavior that you would normally see, right? Okay,
it's not
now
like
we get it.
uniquely crazy. It's not uniquely crazy to Dart.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's not like uniquely crazy to Flutter. There you go. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Hit play. It doesn't scroll. Yeah. This is good. Right. So now I can browse the list, and it does jump when I'm going up, which is really annoying. I want to figure out what it's doing.
Weird.
But only when I'm scrolling up, which is just. I think I know. You know what? I know why.
Really?
Yeah, I do. This is a +1 error.
I called it a long time ago. I called that a long time ago. I said they're off by 1 error somewhere. I knew that.
Is it? I feel like this is. So if I'm moving here and I'm on the same entry, I'm not getting a problem. As soon as I go to one before, I'm getting a problem. My position should.
Shifting a whole unit.
Well, this is the thing, right? It's finding the right element. 50, which is that one. I think it's just the synchronization between these two. Well, no, because why would it not be happening on the down? So when I scroll down, I thought to me like that this should probably be Because at the moment that would be a negative. And let's do this. Let's print.
Be your index numbers are jumping differently than the data that you
I don't
have.
think it's that. Let's figure it out now. Oh, cool. Whoops.
I'd probably make the 0 to be like -1 just in case. That way you can tell if something doesn't have a pixel.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to do right now is, so if you look at the scroll position, right? The idea here is that it's always to go into negative scroll positions.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be relative to that first one, right?
Right. Yeah.
Hang on.
Not sure, but I think some people that are watching this are just leaving it on for their cat to watch while they're off at work. Can't believe people are still
What
here.
is, hang on. Found. Yeah, also 5.8, which makes the scroll, which matches the scroll. But yeah, 36.7. Yeah, perfect. This should match, right? Or thereabouts, right? So the idea being that it's gonna, did that just jump then? There's me. Oh, I just saw that jump. Oh, I did.
Ooh.
If scroll is a negative number,
are you truncating it wrong for negative?
no, we're not accounting for that. I'm just overwriting jumping to a new position. I'm not accounting for the fact that the scroll has a value. Hang on, let me just do this. So when you're scrolling, it's not just the delta from the view, the original delta from the view, which is the value, that's the problem. Okay, all right, hang on. When we found the widget, the annotate widget underneath, we capture a delta position of where it is, where that widget is relative to the 0 of the viewport, right? That's what local position is. The idea being that we apply that delta, we're applying that delta as the new 0 position, right? However, when you're in the middle of a scroll, that might be like a negative value. So what going down is fine. Huh. Wait a minute. What? Okay, you can't, it's really hard to see, but that first drop shadow is actually darker than the rest. The reason for that is that there's multiple widgets laid on top of each other.
Oh no.
And there shouldn't. So that I'm going to say is a bug first I'm going to deal with before I start looking at this, because that should not be the case.
Okay.
So what went wrong is the question. So let's go to the top and have a look. So hang on a minute. Was there an orange widget on top there? Green. Wait, what the hell? I think I
What?
just found out I don't know what's going on here, right? But we definitely got. Do you see the magical
Oh.
widgets coming? So we got orange, green, blue, right? Scroll
Right.
down.
Right.
Go back up. Orange has disappeared because it's behind the green one,
Oh no! Oh no! Oops!
right? And then when we go down, orange is now on
there's
top
an
of the
orange one
green
again.
one.
Oh wow!
So it's because this pixel offset, we account for the negation after that, not before.
Pick a card, any card.
And now it's 0 and will never be that. And we never get those dark shadows. And guess what? We should stop getting the jumping now because it was basically because two which were laid out on top of each other and it couldn't decide which one took precedence. It was based on the order in which they laid out.
Right.
So now if I hit play, I can scroll down. It's not jumping. And I can scroll up to reveal more posts as they come in.
Nice. Did that solve it? It looks like it solved it.
I'm not seeing any jumpiness whatsoever.
Wow. Ship it. Awesome.
And it does flings as well, which is nice. And this actually uses the original scroll mechanism. But at the moment, I think this could be improved, right? So at the moment, we lay out all the widgets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we use a builder algorithm on this, like the builder, sorry, algorithm, the wrong term, but build a pattern on this, then we can avoid actually having to lay out and do multiple widgets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Layout and so another thing we can do. I mean, another thing we should do is put limitations on it, right? Which we could look at another time, but for the moment, it seems fine to me. So when we go to layout, we actually apply the content dimensions here. And what we could do is say, if there's more content above us, then it's negative infinity, so there is no limit applied. But as soon as we look at our origin offset, origin index, if our origin index is the start of the content, then we can enforce a 0. Remember, our pixel origin is always relative to the origin, right? The origin index.
Mm-hmm.
So our content dimensions only apply to that. I mean, officially, you probably could get away with always having this at 0. And let's have a look. Yeah, so I can't go down. I'm at the top. I hit play. Yeah, see, when I scroll down, it's now relative to that top widget. Yeah. I wasn't thinking that through. How can we... Yeah, I was thinking that. Annoyingly, I want to know what that is myself. I was going to go... I was trying to dig around the platform before to work out where... what was it called? It was find annotations. Offset layer, find annotations. So what I kind of want to know is, where is this being called from in the platform code? Because I mean, the other way, I mean, obviously we could do this based on us actually creating the layout. So if you've got a render object, this isn't even a problem, right? Because you have direct access to the layer. Like, this is just because we're trying to get the render object and do it ourselves. I suppose if this is actually saying that, this could work. Hang on, let's try it. Let's try it. So we know that if we're applying our viewport key to a repaint boundary, that actually how that works. Hang on a minute, we'll do it now. As render repaint boundary, and this is render box, and then render box. Oh, really? I thought you could get the layer from it. Maybe. Oh. I mean, look, you can expose it. It's not really a problem. I would not be doing this. This is what I said before. Like, we would be doing custom render objects. In which case, you can expose the layer yourself. I mean, you don't even have to expose the layer because you wouldn't, like, you would do all of this inside of the render object.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying that I feel like you've got this find annotations, you've got this annotation widget, but I do feel like the annotation widget itself, like there should be an annotate, like an annotation.
Like it's attached to the wrong data object.
Wait, what's the widget called? Annotation dot. Oh my goodness me. Is it down there somewhere? I had it a minute ago. Oh, we don't need the scroll control anymore because we implement that ourselves. Yeah, don't need that. Let's get rid of that. Annotate region. Sorry, I feel like annotate region should have like a static on it, which is like annotate region dot find annotations or something, right? It just doesn't. Yeah. It just annotated region layer. I mean, a composition layer that annotates its children with a value, pushing this layer to the tree to come with adding an annotation. An annotation optional object of any type that attached to a layer can be retrieved using layer.find and layer.find annotation with a position. It's done recursively, basically does recursively down the tree, right? Yeah, I mean, what can I say about this? Like it just says it's. Wait, can we key this? Hang on, what does this do? Hang on, let me just be clear about this. This does a render region, render annotated region, layer.
Find it by mobile key.
No, I was just hoping that if this exposed this layer handle, the actual layer from this layer handle, then that'd be it. Like we could just access it because we would just say, okay, make an annotated region, grab the render object for it, and then use that. Again, it's all just shortcuts to try and use what's in there. Right now, we can still do it ourselves. Oops. Right, back to this. What have I made problems with? Oh yeah, custom scroll controller. This to be scroll controller. Oh, I did use custom scroll controller. We don't need to use that. In fact, I ended up making my own twice by the looks of it now. So we have a scroll controller, passing it over to this, and then I made another one because I'm an idiot.
Scroll, baby, scroll.
So yeah, I think that there's to take this the step further would be to replace if we replace this multi-child render object with a render object, then we can use the builder pattern to build those, and then have it also have access to the layer for the regions. So it's all sort of self-contained. To me, that makes the most sense. So that basically you've got a position viewport or something, and then maybe that could go into the framework. So Let's have a quick look here. We're not going to do this now, but I'm kind of curious as to whether we can take advantage of what the system's built already, what's already built into the system already. So there you go. Look, we could override this layout child sequence.
Protected though.
Yeah, no, we'd have to extend this, right? This is a render object mixin.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to do this.
We're just hitting the 3-hour mark here. Probably want to start.
Wow,
about right.
Really? I mean, that went along.
Yes, that's. I figure I better note or you're
yeah.
Note. You just ignore your. You got no clocks anywhere near you. I can tell. There's just nothing up there.
I'm just in depth. This is something I've been wanting to like tackle for a little while. I think
Cool.
There's like all of this logic that we got in here can be reduced down. I really want to tackle it now, but I should. Right, let's park it then. Let's park it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to post this on the builder panel using slivers. That's why they are present in Inspector but are not laid out. Yes. Let's put our faces back on the screen. Yes. This was the answer to this question. So they are laid out. There's no reason why the Spectre shouldn't be able to. They're still positioned on the screen, right? Like the idea of laying out slivers around the box pattern is just like the algorithm which it chooses to lay out, right? Anyway, let me post this to a gist, and then everyone can have the code. And maybe I'll spend a little time do a little render object for that with the builder pattern.
Be sure to watch for our AI shows also on this channel with its own playlist. I can get the playlist, I guess, if I go hunt it down here.
We need to update the playlist.
If you just go to Flutter Community in YouTube, you'll find it. It's one of the playlists.
Well, this channel.
Yeah, this channel. Right. But there's a sub playlist for just the AI stuff. If you're curious about all that. But we're continuing to do AI shows. We did one Monday. So yeah. And we'll do another one next Monday. And hopefully we'll do another live vibing code next Sunday.
Right.
This Sunday, I guess you would say. Next Sunday. This upcoming Sunday.
Next coming Sunday.
Yeah, no, it's this. Yeah. All these ambiguities. Right. Next Tuesday. What does next Tuesday mean? Does it mean the adjacent Tuesday, or does it mean the Tuesday after that?
Well, thank everyone for coming. The codes you'll find in the gist that we just made. And we'll see you same time, same place next week.
Yep. See you next week.
All right. Bye, everyone. Bye.